Alrighty. Peace and blessings, family. This is Brother Sharif with the Hour of Power. Go to Hour of Power Sharif Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share so we can continue to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people. I can't thank God enough for finally getting our technical difficulties straightened out. Thank you to my wife Takia and Mr. Kern for helping us out. We had a little delay the last couple of weeks, but it is what it is. So as always, in the name of God, the gracious, the merciful, we give him praise and thanks for his mercy and his goodness to the human family. If all the trees upon the earth were pens to write with, and if all the oceans were ink, and then another 7 oceans add to its supply, the writing would still not be enough to explain the glory of God, for he's the exalted, all-powerful, all-wise. We confide in no other in our time of need, and we praise no other in our good fortune. He is one. And even if I lived to be 1,000, it would still not be enough to thank God for his many blessings and gifts. We thank God for the Metu Neter, oracle scriptures and writings that came on the continent of Africa thousands of years before any organized religion. We thank God for Moses in the Torah, Jesus in the Gospel, and Muhammad with the Quran. I greet everyone in words of peace. To my Christian family, praise the Lord. To my Muslim family, assalamu alaikum. To my Hebrew Israelite family, shalom. To my Black conscious family, hotep. And to my people in the streets, what's good to you? It all means peace. So once again, this is Brother Sharif with the Hour of Power. Go to Hour of Power Sharif Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share so we can continue to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people. Before we get into this much anticipated interview with our good brother, Mr. Wade, the topic of this conversation is the topic of this talk tonight is called A Conversation with Mr. Wade. It's going to go way deeper than that. We'll go with a couple community announcements. As always, we always have a Lafia's teaching group. I said a Lafia's teaching group at Vonnie Grimes Gym every Saturday at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Vonnie Grimes Gym. That's a Lafia's teaching group. That's for boys and girls between the ages of 7 and 15. At 459 West King Street at Championship Community Center, they have their first Black Collective reading group, and that's for ages 7 and up. And that's teaching them reading, writing, and comprehension skills at Championship Community Center this Saturday, February the 2nd. That's starting at 11 a.m. and that'll run February the 2nd through March the 9th. Teaching them reading and comprehension skills. And that's led by our good sister, Juanita Kirkland, her husband, Carrie Kirkland, our brother, Jeff Kirkland, and Tanya Thompson Morgan have been leading and spearheading that. So please support that. They will also have a father and daughter dance at Phoenix Davis. I believe that's February the 8th, and they're asking for men to help escort these young sisters into the school. We'll have more details with that. That's a father and daughter dance at Phoenix Davis School. You can contact James Morgan, Sandy Walker for more details with that. So that's a father and daughter dance. I haven't been doing as much podcasts lately. Please pray for me and my family. But you can go on my page to catch up on some of the podcasts that we have been doing with the Hour of Power. So without no further ado, we have our good brother, Mr. Wade, here. Can you introduce yourself, brother?
Well, first, let me say to you in words of peace, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you for inviting me to the program. I want to congratulate you on the wonderful work that you're doing. I do follow, some of the programs off and on, and I appreciate your passion, and your studious work and, research around some of the subjects and, again, creating that community dialogue. I think it's much needed, and thank you for what you're doing here.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And the call-in number is 846-5067. 717-846-5067. Please don't be shy. Call in. The brother is going to share a wealth of knowledge and information. So please don't be shy to call in.
But for your viewing audience, my name is Brian Wade. I'm a native of Harrisburg. I lived in York for 22 years. I taught here in York. I raised my family here in York. So I'm no stranger to this area.
Mm-hmm.
Again, thank you for inviting me.
Okay. If you can move up a little bit, they said you need to speak up a little bit in your mic.
Okay.
The sound is okay, right, Takia? All right. Yeah.
All right. Again, my name is Brian Wade. I'm a native of Harrisburg. I also lived in York for 22 years. I taught here, raised my family here. So I want to thank my dear brother for inviting me, and I want to congratulate him on the work that he's doing here.
Right. You've been doing some documentaries and research on Black history. When we spoke at our wonderful brother Ahmed, better known as Claire Sexton, may he rest in peace. I miss that brother so much, but things happen for a reason. We were able to connect, via his janaza prayer, which is Arabic for funeral. We were able to connect, and that's how we were able to set up this interview.
Exactly. And believe me, it's cold too. It's 90 degrees outside, but I appreciated the invite, so I didn't mind driving down. So God will provide and take care.
Right. Can you share with us some of the documentary and some of the information that that I've been anticipating sharing?
Okay. Well, back in the end of 2016, I was watching a movie where we were soldiers. I served in two branches of the military, the United States Navy and the United States Army. And
Here we go.
There we go. Okay. I served in the United States Navy and Army. And I was watching a movie called We Were Soldiers. This was Mel Gibson was one of the, as they would say, stars in the movie. But that movie chronicled the first major major battle in Vietnam in the Ai Drang Valley. And one of the individuals at the end of the movie, they showed the people that had lost their lives in that particular battle. And one of the names that came up was Samuel L. McDonald from Harrisburg. Now, I didn't know the name, but I saw Harrisburg. So I was curious as to who this person was. And I came to research he was African American. And as I looked further, I thought on a broader scale, because you know me from my television program Worlds Apart, which got a genesis here in the York community and ended up being seen by a potential viewership of 25 million people around the United States. This was really before they had a lot of this technology. But, it's on several stations around the United States. And that television program, I went to Stanford University, I went to Morehouse, I went to Drexel University, did statewide broadcast. I did the first gubernatorial dialogue on race. It had never been done at Penn State University with, at that time, Ed Rendell and Bob Casey, where we covered 4 areas, the disparities in education, the criminal justice system, employment, and health care. Hasn't been done since. It's like, I don't know why we aren't more ardent in terms of wanting to have those issues constantly addressed, and not only just to talk about them, but what kinds of action plans are, is our structure putting in place to try to remediate these issues. But fast forward, so I saw the movie, I saw the person, I was inspired. I said, maybe I should do a documentary, because I had done a documentary back in 2005 where I went down to the Gulf Coast. 3 African-American organizations had pulled their resources together to take needed supplies down to New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. So I thought it'd be a great thing to chronicle that support. So eventually I raised the money, went down there.
Was you actually down there?
Yes. No. We got there a week after the storm hit.
Wow.
So, and
Me
then
and my wife went there for the 5-year anniversary
of
the storm, and it looked like it just happened.
Yeah.
It was 5 years after. We went there in 2010.
Well, I was there fresh. It was a week after. So we, a tractor trailer brought a bunch of supplies, and there were several other people. We drove down, and I had met somebody in Tupelo, Mississippi that I knew, and he did the filming for the documentary, and it was called Project Ujamaa, so it was about that collective cooperation, and that was my first documentary. And then the second one I was a part of was narrating a documentary that looked at African Americans that served in the Civil War from the Harrisburg area. That was for the National Civil War Museum. So but I thought about this. documentary series I'm doing where I'm chronicling the African American experience in the capital region. That's Harrisburg, Carlisle. We might touch York, Lancaster, and places to that regard, but it's primarily in the Harrisburg area, Harrisburg, Stilton, Edgemont, Middletown, and those areas. And it was the first time it had been done, because one of the things I'm very serious about is if we don't take more responsibility for chronicling our history, then I don't know if you can expect others to do it.
Right.
And one of the issues that I was concerned about is that I study history. I'm not saying I'm a historian, but I do study history. And I looked at three periods. The period of Jim Crow, which really began in 1877, 78. That's when the federal troops were moved out of the South. And that's when you saw this uptick, what they call Jim Crow. So basically, you're looking at 90 years from 1877, because prior to that was the period they call Reconstruction from 1865 through 1870. So it was like a 12-year window where not all, but some African Americans enjoyed some progressive kinds of things. You saw people elected into Congress. You saw the genesis of HBCUs, the Freedmen's Bureau, that's what they called it. So it was a small window, but shortly after the federal troops moved out of the South, then you saw these Jim Crow laws coming up, the black codes and that type of thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that with the black code.
Yep, it was just basically, just to be simplistic about it, it was just ways of impeding African Americans' ability to vote and just live the American dream, quote unquote, the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. There were poll taxes. Most people, specifically, I won't say all African, but most, even a lot of whites, couldn't read. They weren't literate. So how can you take a test to determine if you're able to take a? Oh, you got a call?
Oh no.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. How can you do well on a test? These tests they give you in order to vote. So they came up with a lot of ways just to impede African Americans' ability to participate in our society. And so this period went on from like 1877 up through what we call the civil rights movement. And there were still a lot of injustices going on, but you find in 64 and 65, the Civil Rights Acts, the Voting Rights Act. During that period of time, there was still a lot of issues going on. Martin Luther King was assassinated in 1968, and Malcolm X in 65, and and then with the formation of the Black Panther Party, and J. Edgar Hoover goes on to say, well, this was one of the number one threat to the American, society was the Black Panthers, which would basically talking about self-sufficiency. But getting back to the documentary, I just knew that you have probably 20 more years with most people that were born during that period of Jim Crow, probably, I would say from the 20s up until now, most of those people are going to be gone. So you won't have that group of people that basically lived during the sort of the last period of the Jim Crow time. And so these people have lived through the period of Jim Crow, civil rights, and integration. So you're going to basically have a group of people that lived in that period. There's a lot of history because they can talk to about their grandmothers and their great-grandmothers, which a lot of them would have been slaves. So you have that period in 20 years. None of that history, unless it's chronicled properly, will be available. You'll have maybe secondary sources where people are talking about what somebody else said, but to have primary source information in a documentary format where they're talking about their experiences and what they went through.
Not even in the school system?
Not much at all. I brought a curriculum because that was one of the things as a former educator that I said, not only is it important for me to have this documentary, but also I created a curriculum that meets state standards. Matter of fact, it exceeds state standards. I went to the Department of Education, and they had said they'd never seen anything like it. Right. So my goal is to have, for each documentary is produced, to have a curriculum. I'm also looking to develop a coloring book for grades, maybe like 2 through 5, because I do have sketches of these individuals. It takes money to do that. But as go ahead.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Wade.
Sure.
Man, you're dropping so much information. Now, a couple months ago, back in 2018, I had Mr. Jeff Kirkland.
Oh yes, I know
Now,
Mr. Kirkland. Yep.
Now it seems like he concentrates, and it's more than valuable,
Right.
on lost history in Europe. But it seems like yours is. What's the difference? The way your documentation bit. I hope y'all can come together because.
Well, it'd be great to collaborate, and
Yes.
it's good. You know, the more the merrier. That's looking to chronicle the history on some level. So I can't say I'm all that well versed. I just know that some of it, from what I've seen, is written and pictorial history that really goes back further than what I'm going back. I'm covering a specific period of from 1940 to 1975. That's a period.
But national.
No, this is it's regional right now. It's regional.
Okay.
National, I don't have the means to do that nationally.
Right. Okay.
But one of the things,
Because you was talking about the black codes, that
black code,
that's
that was you could say somewhat national, but it happened more deliberately in the South.
right.
So when the federal troops left, they basically had carte blanche to do what they did to African Americans. It was almost like reparations for them now. We're going to get back.
And it was a way to keep us in the criminal justice system.
Exactly, because you had a lot of these slave catchers and stuff like that still going around, and even going up to the north and bringing some of them back to the south. But get back to your point. So my focus was to really capture these people that are still living, that were born in the 1920s, 30s, 40s. And now most of these people, in the 20 years, we won't have most of those people around.
All right.
They might be in their hundreds. They may be around 100. But if I don't get those, not only myself, but my goal is to try to get as many of those stories and put them in a documentary format where people can hear and see those stories. And we did that in November the 18th of 2017, where we released Keystones up at the Forum Auditorium in Harrisburg. And we had probably 700 to 800 people there. And we had the Army band there. We had African Americans that served between World War II and Vietnam. And the point wasn't so much to uplift the fact that we're fighting in these wars, which I can say for the most part are unjust in a lot of ways, because they're expansionist types of wars. We go in other people's countries. If you know, during that period, Muhammad Ali said he would not serve in Vietnam. He said, why should I go over there?
Said no Viet Cong did
Right.
nothing
He
to
said
me.
they didn't do anything to me. And he lost 3 years of his boxing career because of that stand. But eventually he prevailed with the decision in the Supreme Court. So, but what they had to go through, we chronicled the lives of individuals who served with the Montford Point Marines. They were the first African Americans in 1943 to be allowed into the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps was the last military group to allow African Americans to serve. And as far as I know, in the Harrisburg area, there's one left of the original 300. And I have in the documentary one of the gentlemen that served. He passed 2 months after I filmed him in the documentary. He was in line. His name was Emmett Norris from the Harrisburg area. And he was in line for a world boxing title against Sugar Ray Robertson if he had beat Carmen Basilio. But he lost to Carmen Basilio. Carmen Basilio went on to fight Sugar Ray the first time and beat him. And then Sugar Ray beat him, and got his title back. So,
Excuse me, Mr.
Go ahead.
Paul, one of my viewers said earlier, were you referring to the golden years when you talked about? He said, are you referring to Frank, which is called the golden years? But
I'm not sure what he means by golden
Yeah,
years. All I know is the period, if he wants to talk, after the Civil War was called that period of Jim Crow, which started around 1877.
Yeah,
And
Mr.
that,
Hall, if you can clarify what you're talking about, we'll try to answer your question.
sure.
Again, the call-in number is 717-846-5067. If you have any questions or comments, please call in.
So this documentary oral history series, because it's oral history, and my goal was to try to be as much in the first person or the primary source coming from the person themselves. And like I said, I know that window's closing because these people have lived through 3 social periods. They've lived through Jim Crow, they've lived through civil rights, and they've also are living in integration. So they have a vast perspective about America's evolution relative to African Americans. And I want to chronicle, in my documentary, Keystones, the first documentary, doesn't so much focus on, look what they did to me. It really more so focuses how they were able to overcome in spite of the barriers that were put in place.
just making sure the volume is up. And you had mentioned about a coloring book, because my wife was talking about a coloring book. I want to concentrate on that when you want to get to it, and that curriculum, because
I have it right. I brought it with me. Here it is.
Touch on that.
I don't know if they can see it. You can hold it up.
Turn around. The screen is right there.
This is the Keystone's curriculum material that is geared for grades 9 through 12.
Wow.
And
that's high school.
That's high school. And when I went to the Department of Education, they said never seen anything like this. I went to the director of curriculum
for Pennsylvania,
for the state of Pennsylvania, and they said never seen anything like. And your timing was perfect. You can peruse through that if you like. And I want to create a coloring book. That's grades 2 through 5, and I've met with various school districts, even here in York City, and we're waiting to how should I say, get this into the schools. It'd be great. One of my goals is to try to find a philanthropist or a donor that would underwrite the curriculum, because we not only have it in hard copy, we have it in electronic. So teachers could actually go hit a link and go to this information. So in the curriculum, we have what you call unit plans that provide a broader perspective, like the Montford Point Marines or different broader topics. And then we have the lesson plans, which are more specific and delineative as it relates to the individuals. And as you can see, these are pictures of the individuals. One of the individuals is originally from York. Chief Pierre Ritter, I served with him in the United States Army National Guard, and also he was the chief of police for Harrisburg.
Wow.
And I served under him in the police bureau. There he is right here. He's from York. So he's in this documentary and in the curriculum. And he basically did something on a dual track. He started off in the enlisted ranks in the Navy. He went into various aspects of the Army, and he retired as a lieutenant colonel. He was a beat police officer in Harrisburg. That's the lowest of the low. And he ended up being the chief of police under the first African-American mayor.
All right.
And
so all these people in here are still living?
Well, some are and some aren't.
Oh, okay.
Some are and some aren't. This gentleman right here, David Waters Sr., he's from Harrisburg. They have a large family. He just recently passed himself about a month and a half ago. And he's in a documentary. He served under General Patton. Now, you think about African-Americans that served under brass, they generally had menial positions. That's not to say they didn't do good at what they did, but he learned French in Harrisburg. He ended up being a French translator for the brass under General Patton. That was part of the Third Army. And another sort of needle in the haystack story, he served in 3 different campaigns, but one that most people know about is the Battle of the Bulge. And that's when the United States military and other armed forces were closing in and getting ready to head into Germany in the Ardennes. That's in Belgium. He's, as the Germans were surrendering, and he says this in the documentary, as the Germans were surrendering, this one German looks at him and he calls him by his nickname, Mr. Waters' nickname. Now, think about, how would a German know my nickname? Here, this German soldier was his high school classmate. His family had left Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to serve in the German army, and here they meet on the battlefield in the Ardennes during the Battle of the Bulge as the Germans surrendered. So he meets his high school classmate at the Battle of the Bulge surrendering. So imagine that. That's like a needle in a haystack story, chances of people going in different directions and you meet on the battlefield, years later.
And nationally, Mr. Wade, I think that's a more lost history that, especially in this generation, they don't know the contribution that black people
Oh, my goodness.
Spanish American
War, exactly.
War,
exactly.
Like one talk I
gave, exactly.
Every war that we've had, we fought in it.
Right.
For your freedom, and we don't have none.
Oh, my goodness.
So just you showing this is, how far are you away from making this be part of the curriculum?
Well, it's just a matter of schools incorporating it. Schools are working with a limited budget, and this is not like something you can just go to Walmart and buy it for $50. Over 150 hours went into this.
I bet.
And so it's not. It can be affordable. It's just a matter of getting it into schools, private schools, charter schools, or whatever. But our goal is to now also implement a coloring book for grades 2 through 5.
Wow.
And we have the sketches already done. These sketches, most of these sketches were done by a world-class artist in Hamburg, Pennsylvania. His name is Eric R. Music. And I happened to meet him. I wouldn't say by chance. I would say it was God ordained. But when he heard about the project that I was doing, I had the pictures of these individuals. And within 3 days, there's Samuel L. McDonald right there. That's who the documentary is in honor of. In 3 days, he had these sketches done. And he's a world-class artist. I mean, trained in Italy and Spain. And I met him, and he did that as a contribution, didn't charge me anything. So God has brought people in my path that, I couldn't do this by myself, but I know it needed to be done. And like I said, so there's so many stories.
It's like a clergyman there.
Yeah,
Right there?
This gentleman has ties to York. His I forgot the name of the family. Oh my goodness! But this is Bishop Nathan Baxter.
Okay.
He married into a family here in York, Pennsylvania, and I can't even think of their name. Oh my goodness! The Walker family. The Walker family. They lived over there by Penn Park. Oh, I can't think the names, but there was like 4 or 5 different sisters in that family. But he married the oldest sister.
I think I know who you are.
Yeah. But he served in Vietnam, and he's in the documentary. And there's a movie called Hacksaw Ridge, and this was a movie about a gentleman who said, "I won't carry a weapon," and he was a medic. And the movie was just over the last 2 or 3 years. This man's story was similar. He said because of his convictions and growing up in the Church of God in Christ, that he didn't want to carry a weapon. So they made him a medic. He served in Vietnam, was able to come back to the States, and eventually he gets several degrees and ends up being the dean of the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. That's where they have all the presidential funerals and all this kind of stuff. He was there. He was a bishop in the Episcopal Church. That's the Church of England. And he came back to this area, and his father is Elder Belgian Baxter, another individual out of Harrisburg in the Church of God in Christ that came from Coatesville, and his family migrated from the South during the Great Migration, from the South. And he served in World War II, and his father wrote 3 poems that he, matter of fact, I'll present this to you now before I want to present you a copy of the Keystones documentary for yourself. So you'll get a chance to see it for yourself. But there it is, right? That's for you. And so his father has 3 poems in 3 different presidential libraries. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the Carter Library, and also the Kennedy Library. So he comes from a long line, but there's so many. That's like I'm not even scratching the surface. But I just said, well, I have to start somewhere. So my goal was I have 14 more documentaries to do over the next 12 years. And my hope is that each documentary will have curriculum that will it will further enhance that more people or a broader base of people will know about these stories.
Right. Again, the call-in number is 717-846-5067. Please don't be shy. Our great brother and historian, Mr. Brian Wade, dropping some gems, for us about, our hidden history. And I really hope you can connect with Mr. Kirkland. That would really be
right.
That would be monumental.
I wanted to show you something else. As a result of creating the documentary Oral History, I created the first African-American Military Hall of Fame.
For here in New York?
No, Central Pennsylvania. And if you notice this gentleman here,
Mr. Vonnie Grimes.
Mr. Vonnie Grimes was posthumously inducted into that Hall of Fame. And this is the first of its kind. So, you can have this. But several people from York was there. Matter of fact, former Mayor Bracy was there and her mother.
Okay.
So they got the chance to see it. But this had never been done. So this was the first of its kind. And this gentleman, Nelson Polite, he served in World War II. He's passed. But he's out of Lancaster. So we had Lancaster, Harrisburg, York represented, Central Pennsylvania. So this is just an evolution of what Keystones is doing. And so I'll leave this with you, so you'll have it for your. I'm gonna take the curriculum back with you.
Yeah. Well,
but
hopefully in the near future we're gonna see this curriculum in the schools.
Yes.
I mean, we need it. What do you think impact that would have? Let's just say we could snap our finger. I believe it's going to come into fruition a bit.
Well,
what impact would you have? Let's say like Hannah Penn, a school.
Well, I'll just say this. I met with the York City School District. I met with the superintendent. He was quite impressed, but one of their issues generally I don't like stereotyping, but in urban schools is the issue of, I don't know if we have the money set aside to do that. So I'm trying to maybe reach out with banks or corporations that say, we'll underwrite it, and they can go to the school and present it to them. And then teach that in the classroom, because you can't say, oh, this is just willy-nilly. This meets state standards.
Right.
Department of Education has vetted this, and this is formally copyrighted too. Matter of fact, I just got the notice so maybe a couple of months ago. First time through, copyright to pass. You know, because I had to send it to Washington D.C. just for protection.
Call-in number. Key is the call-in number cycling across the screen. Brother Aaron, the call-in number is 717, because I know you're in North Carolina. 717-846-5067, and it should be cycling across the screen. 717-846-5067. So you said
Yep.
you met with York City.
Yes, I met with the superintendent. This was probably like last year, like probably the early part of the winter. And he saw it and was very impressed. But again, it's just a matter, it's not like $30 or $40. It's a little expensive. But schools are spending 6 or 7 figures for curriculum. Exactly. And it's first of its kind. So it's reasonably priced for the level of work that's been done. And so I'm hoping that, you know, if somebody's listening and they know a bank or a group, we're under a 501c3. That means that people can, you know, if they wanted to, or corporation wanted to do, they could write that off. We're also looking to partner with groups that have what they call EITC, that's Education Income Tax Credits. And basically what that means is if a corporation finds a group that they can contribute to get the book, then they can write off maybe more than they would normally write on their income tax, on their credit, on their taxes. So
let me ask you a question now, Mr. Wade. Kind of off topic bit.
That's all right.
On topic. Have you heard of the since we're talking about like chronicling correct history? Have you heard of the talk I did and some others about what happened with Martin Luther King?
Well, I was aware of a series of books that was written by Mr. Pepper.
Yes, the family attorney.
Exactly, and I think it was general common knowledge that the King family won a suit against 3 entities: United States government and some other factions.
1999.
Yes, exactly. But also, I didn't know until just recently that the gunshot wound could have killed him, but he was alive when he got to the hospital. But one of the nurses that was there said she was told to leave the room.
Yes.
And what they hold or contend is that they put a pillow over Dr. King and he suffocated.
Smothered him.
Yep, smothered him.
Dr. Breen Bland.
Yeah, okay.
Was the chief doctor
at
that time. And
I hear their ties with the mafia and stuff, like they were all tied because it was, you know, so it was a conspiracy, you know.
The newest book is a plot to kill King.
Right, because I think Mr. Pepper has 3 books out.
He has 3 books.
Right.
That, Orders to Kill.
Right, that's the one I was familiar. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So yes.
Yes.
I was generally familiar with that, but you seem to be a little more, you know, aware of or knowledgeable than I was. But I was aware of the first book.
Yeah.
By
So
Mr. Pepper.
he's the family. He's the family attorney, Dr. William Pepper. That when I was in Durham, I did several talks down there. You know about. You know, the whole thing was, you know, really almost staged. Even the pointing at the ceiling.
Yeah.
You know, because his autopsy shows that he has gunshots under his neck and in his groin. So how would the shot come from up there? And Jesse Jackson switched his room from the first floor to the second floor.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
Reverend Billy Kyles even slipped. If you look at Dick Gregory's documentary, it's called The Murder of MLK, and in 1980 it's called He Slipped, and he did a talk and said he stepped to the side so they could have a clear shot at him, and a Memphis cab driver saw a Memphis Police Department cop shoot him from the first floor.
Yeah, he was a marksman, exactly.
Marks, you know, which lines up with the shots being under his neck.
Right, exactly. Being at a lower level, shooting up at him.
A lot of CIA agents there, you know, surrounding, and they start doing that sign like that, saying he's done. But he went to St. Joseph's Hospital, according to Dr. Pepper, and he was alive.
Exactly.
And, he ordered them. He said it was 2 men with dark suits. Ordered them out the room, and Lua, Shelby, she was the nurse,
attending
surgical
nurse.
Right. She stood at the door and she said she saw Dr. Breen Bland and 2 men with dark suits spitting on him, and they said, "You're going to die tonight,"
Mm.
you know, and they took a pillow and suffocated him. They said that's how he died, and it's in these books, but particularly the plot to kill King.
And that's where I guess sometimes that's not to say that information is accurate, but that's what they call secondary source, because the nurse's son is the one that basically
Johnston Shell.
Yeah, exactly.
He told Dr. Pepper about
what his mother told him.
His mother,
and
but we know. I mean, it's pretty clear.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not true.
With my study, that the whole story of them pointing up, that's not accurate. James Earl Ray was a patsy in a pawn.
Right. Similar
you know,
to Lee Harvey Oswald, as far as I'm concerned.
These are things that have been repetitive with the, you know, with the American government.
Hope we can get some calls. You want to give that number again? So,
717-846-5067. 717-846-5067. Any other history in York and with the work that you're doing? People are really impressed. I wish they would call in with the keystones and so much hidden history.
Because if they want to know
any other figures that you want to talk about,
and
so much, any of it, you know.
Well,
I like bringing up names of, you know, we hear about Malcolm and Martin and all that,
right?
All these heroes who made so much.
Well, I know one of the things we do, we go to colleges and universities. We're going on tour to Penn State, you know, because I have to. Somebody was listening. Somebody had a call. Okay.
Power.
Yes, my name is Dean. I'm calling to the call. I was listening on live on Facebook.
Yes, sir. What's your name, brother?
Dean Muhammad. I came down. I also met you all at the funeral of Brother Ahmed. He was one of my mentors.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Did you help with preparing the body, brother?
Yeah.
Yes, I remember you. Yes, we helped prepare Brother Ahmed's body, and you, may he rest in peace. And you were very helpful, because that was my first time actually in person, you know, preparing someone's body. You were very helpful. May God bless you for your efforts, brother.
Yes, sir. He was one of the ones that actually married my wife and I when we first started. You know, we got together.
Oh, wonderful.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Yes, sir. And this is his brother-in-law, right? Would you be considered Brother Ahmed?
Well, my son married his daughter. Yes.
Right. Yeah, I know your son.
Oh, you know my son? Okay, very good.
Yeah, I'm trying to link up with him also. But I was appreciating the commentary about history, and I'm in Harrisburg also.
Oh, are you? Okay.
And I think I inboxed you some time ago, but you just brought it back to my attention about the curriculum. Right now we have a homeschool here in Harrisburg, and we also deal with a lot of community organizations in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And so I'm going to share your information through that circuit, because they're always looking for documentaries and people who, especially now you have a curriculum with it.
And meet state standards too.
Exactly, to sponsor and get them in, you know, different colleges, like in particular we deal with Drexel and the University of Penn. So,
right, exactly. I was at Drexel University on PCN, like I was telling my brother here, and my television series on race and racism took me all over the United States. I was at Stanford University, where we looked at cultural competency in healthcare. Those programs are on YouTube, though. If you look, my name, Brian Wade and Worlds Apart, I still archived like 120, but I produced over 600 half-hour programs over the 11 years that I was on the air. But like I said, please inbox me your number so we can talk, and then I'll call you. But like I said, I would love to get the word out. I know I try not to pigeonhole myself, where the only time people are interested in this is on Black History Month, because our history is part of the whole history of America. And it shouldn't be just confined to a month or a week. That's how I feel.
Shortest one at that, but anyway.
Yeah. Any other questions you have about Keystones?
Well, and Keystone, when you mentioned about the, I know you briefly talked about the African Americans in the central PA area that were in the war. A friend of mine also had a book. I don't know if you came across this in your studies about Muslims who also were in the wars going back.
Okay, that will be good. I didn't, you know, I'm sure there is information. I just know that as much as I would have liked to have covered the wider scope, I just said, well, let me kick the ball and get it going, at least, So if others want to pick up the mantle and, do things like that, the more we can have people out there working or working together, the better. So, I think this is great. And, seeing you lived in Harrisburg, then shortly after the documentary was released at the Forum, I created the first African American Military Hall of Fame. And we had that at the Scottish Rite Cathedral on November the 11th of 2018. We had over 500 people there, and it was it was aired on PCN. So now this November, it's going to be an all-female African American military inductee ceremony. So we're going to be inducting only females. And then maybe the next will be the Tuskegee Airmen. There's still one living in Harrisburg. Matter of fact, we're going to be meeting with Mr. Goodrich?
Yeah, I met him before.
Exactly. So I'll be meeting with his family here shortly. Yes.
Okay, well, I appreciate you all. Keep up the good work, and support of you all. And I'll also reach out and give you my information.
Oh, please do. Okay.
And,
all right. Thank you so much.
Brother Muhammad, definitely inbox me so we could stay in contact. I love when brothers collaborate and connect.
Yes, sir. Will do. Thank you.
Okay. Salam, brother.
All right. Peace. Waalaikum salam.
All right. Yes, I remember that brother. He helped prepare brother.
Okay.
He taught us how to properly prepare his body in Islamic way.
Well, that's
that
wonderful.
was
yes.
something I'll never forget.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that y'all connected.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You were talking about the forum that you did on racism and race. Was that
Yeah,
what
on
it's called?
my television series.
Yes, could you tell us more?
Yeah,
about
Worlds
that?
Apart basically was created back in 1997. And we got a phone call. So, yep, I like to talk to the people.
Hold that thought.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
That's my brother from North Carolina. Our power.
All right, brother. How are you this evening?
How you doing, brother? Can you state your name?
This is Aaron.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Aaron?
How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother.
Yeah, he has a
All
TV
right.
show in North Carolina also. What you got for us, brother?
Well, I certainly do appreciate everything that you all have been sharing, and of the many points, I find it to be quite poignant that, the point of reaching out to the elders in our community to make sure that we are able to glean those stories.
Yes.
As you just said very eloquently, that when they pass, those stories pass with them.
Yes.
And unless we are able to hold on to those, and I'm sure, we're all in the same age bracket. And I know I remember sitting at the feet of my elders, my great grannies and great uncles and whatnot. And, we didn't have all these screens and things. So
Right.
they would share the stories
Right.
with us, and I always enjoyed that. And matter of fact, we have a lady in my community here who's almost 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
Going to be going and taking my camera and sitting down and just sharing with her. And so I would piggyback on what you said and charge anyone who's listening to reach out to your aunties and your uncles and great aunties and great uncles and people in the communities. And before they do transition, let us get those stories. Let us forget, how they are told from as close to the people who were there, and so I for many things that I could say, that was something I wanted to not take up too much time to say. I certainly do agree with that.
Well, I'll give you this suggestion. Part of the website that I'm developing, it will be able to basically not only have the stories that I've chronicled, but I'm creating a perpetual website that people can actually, with their cell phones, maybe do a 5-minute interview with their family members, and I'll show them how to do that on the website. And basically, they can upload those oral history stories onto this major website. So that way, you have a perpetual oral history series, not only being done professionally, but people can do them with their own cell phones. As you well know, you can do a lot with these cell phones now.
That's right. That's a form of citizen journalism.
Yes, exactly.
21st century
Exactly.
concept to continue those family trees. And
Yep.
I add to that also is that I was listening to a brother's podcast the other day, and he was saying, hey, if you can get hold of your elder's birth certificate and it has a C in front of it, then that means that, and if I'm saying, I'll go back and do my homework to make sure I'm saying this correctly, that if it has a C in front of it, then that means more of a relationship to those copper skin, thick lip, furrowed hair, broad nose people that are indigenous to this land here.
Oh, okay,
You hear
gotcha.
what I'm saying?
Yes,
And
okay.
so when we're able to tell the story and look at 13th and 14th Amendment and whatnot,
Right.
those who are considered indigenous Indian people,
Mhm.
that we should not be cut out of that
Mm.
from the things that we're given, but we need to know that history so that we can go back and in respect to the law of the land, make claim to that which is. You hear what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you for what you're doing in North Carolina. I used to live in North Carolina. I was a teacher down in Greensboro. I don't know what part of North Carolina.
I'm in the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill.
Oh, yeah. Okay, my son went to school at North. He got 2 graduate degrees from North Carolina State, so I am familiar with the Cary and all those
I
areas.
was born in Raleigh. I'm close to all that. And while I have Brother Sharif on here, in one of your last podcasts, you talked about some events coming up. There's one in Durham, one in Harrisburg, at the different African American museums. Am I saying this correctly?
Yes, the Great Blacks and Wax Museum trip we have February 16th. I forgot to
mention that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do me a favor.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you send me some sort of electronic flyer or whatnot that I can share on my personal page, my Taj Talk page, my Taj Talk website, because I'm here in this area, so I can certainly make it to the Durham one and certainly share that word. Brother Kiva, who hooked us up, Brother Sharif, he's here too. So yeah, let's make sure you share it with me so I can do my due diligence and get that word out. You hear?
Yes, I'll send that to you tonight, brother. And we supposed to connect so I can come on your show. He has a radio show down there.
Oh, great. Well, I'd love to come on tour down in Durham. We're home of, the HBCU in Durham? Central, yes. Central. Everyone knows about Duke, but I want to give some shout out to the HBCUs.
And hold on, we got Central. Now, I got to do it right. We got Shaw.
Oh, yes. That's in Raleigh, yep. Mm-hmm.
We're going to get them all in.
Right.
Aggies, all that down there.
That's right. So, give thanks to, and we got A&T.
Right, in Greensboro, yep.
That's right. We got Elizabeth City, Winston-Salem State. Let me get them all.
Yep, exactly.
You won't say I forgot. But, yeah, man, I appreciate both your works you hear, and I'll continue.
All right, then.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, bro.
All right, brother. Take care now.
Yeah, so man, we're making a lot of connects with the great work that you're doing, brother, and that's what this show is about. It's not about me or any individual. It's about lifting the mind, body, and soul of our people and connecting businesses and putting out there, and I hope we keep connecting. After,
Definitely, yeah.
Tonight, and I really want that to come into fruition with that curriculum.
The curriculum, I just need help getting it out there.
Just let me know.
I think if enough people go to their school districts, if they know that this is out here, and the thing about it, yes, some of these individuals are from the capital region, you could say the Harrisburg area, but with the way this is structured, the supportive research links give you a national perspective, for instance, about the Montford Point Marines, because not only do I have it in hard copy, I have it in electronic links, so they can actually pick a lesson plan,